Welcome to another episode of the Pepper Soup Talk Show, where we bring to the table movers and shakers in the African diaspora. Our guest today is doing a lot of work to empower our women entrepreneurs. She has a company, Mom Your Business, that is giving the resources and skills and training to women entrepreneurs so that they can have thriving businesses and also ultimately grow their businesses exponentially.
Yes.
She's on a mission to empower 1,000 women entrepreneurs with her company. And so we're gonna hear her story today about how she came to do what she does and provide value to you, for listening in. And so welcome to Pepper Soup Talk, Tanya Morris.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here. Excited to talk to you gentlemen.
Yes.
And so
before we get into it, can you tell us a little bit about where you're from?
So I am Philly born and raised. I have never lived anywhere else. I was telling Paul earlier, I actually grew up on 33rd Street, not too far from here, off of 33rd and Diamond.
Oh, wow.
And then we moved to West Oak Lane.
Okay.
Lived in West Oak Lane most of my life, me and my mom. I'm an only child, so I'm a spoiled brat by some accounts. And moved out to West Philly maybe about 15 years ago with my twin. I have twin sons, Isaiah and Jeremy. Shout out to them. But moved out to West Philly, and so I am Philly through and through. I am Philly through and through.
Sekou and I, we've actually been living at this loft for over 5 years now, and so we've seen, even just in the last 5 years, the way this whole area has changed.
Yes.
So when you growing up on 33rd and Diamond, what has it been like from your perspective, seeing all the changes that have happened in the last couple of decades?
Yeah.
And even just before we started this, we're talking about real estate. You're talking about Jumpstart Germantown and Northwest. So, can you talk a little bit about what it's been like from your perspective?
Well, I mean, for me, I can remember growing to the park right there at 33rd Diamond. My grandmother was a pastor, so she actually pastored a church on 29th Street.
Wow.
We actually grew up in a church right there at the corner of Ridge and Ridge Avenue, right across the street from Strawberry Mansion High School, real small storefront church. So, North Philly is kind of like, in my blood, in a lot of ways. So when I look at the changes, now, and even looking at it, and you try sometimes to not look at it through the gentrification lens, right. But it's kind of hard not to, you know what I mean, in a lot of ways. But when you look at it, development is good. My uncle actually developed some of the properties that are on 33rd Street now. Him and Councilman Clark were very good friends growing up. He's passed on now, but I watched Tony try to develop 33rd Street, and I watched him, try to develop this area, and so when I see the storefronts, and I see some of the things that are still, when I see a lot of the buildings on 33, I remember when people always lived in those homes and walked, and I tell people, even like around here, you guys have the picture right over there, the Eastern Electric, and Brewery Town. I actually work out of the Brewery Town 1776. That's where my offices are. And during those times, that's when people actually walked to work. It was called Brewery Town because it was a bunch of breweries back there, right? All the beer and soda and all of those kind of things. That's why they call it Brewery Town, because it was a bunch of breweries down here, and folks would come out their door and walk to work. So when you think about those kinds of changes, and you see, and I like to say right now what we're saying is people on top of people, right? Because everything is becoming a condo or a loft, and it's like people on top of people on top of people. Right? It's crazy. So, it's a big difference. But having said all of that, I probably would still never live anywhere else.
Why's that?
I would probably still not, just because, just the culture of, Philly is different. Like, I can't.
You can say that again.
Philly is different. I've been a Sixers fan since I was a little girl. I still remember when Dr. J came to the Sixers. I remember when my mom worked for the Sixers the year after they won the championship. And so it's just different from a cultural standpoint. Even as we look at, riding the subway. Even like, you know, I think 2 weeks ago there was like a mass shooting up in Broad Island.
Yeah.
That was my hub when I went to when I went to Temple.
Yeah.
When I went to CCP, that was my hub. I got on the 6 trolley, and bus with the Broad Island, got on the train and went to school.
Yeah.
You know, so those are the things I think that make Philly, you know, Philly. You know, those kinds of things, and our commercial corridors, and the way we shop, and the foods that we have. You know, I often say that the cheesesteak is often duplicated but never replicated. Like you can't, you know what I mean?
Right.
It's never. You know, it's just we are a unique city in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Definitely. And something with Philly that we've spoken about before is just how it's a major city, but it's a little smaller than, let's say, New York and these other cities. However, people oftentimes they'll look past it when there's so much history here, and then each part of the city has so much character to it. Like North Philly versus South Philly.
Yes.
You said Uptown.
Yes.
So much character in each different part of the city.
Yes. And, I mean, we're a city of neighborhoods, right? And I worked in social work for a really long time, and I remember when I started, I was working at, I was going to Frankfurt, and that was like the first time that I ever had to catch the L every time. Right, was going to 40th Street and getting on the L, and from above on the L you could see so many of the changes. And I remember when my dad used to take us, you know, to Penny's, to the stores up around that area, and Penn Fruit and all the different supermarkets. Seeing a lot of the supermarkets that have gone away way before y'all came around. Trust me. We down to 2 supermarkets now. ShopRite and Acme. When I was growing up, there was 5, 6 different types of supermarkets. You know, so all of those kinds of things. To your point about the character of each neighborhood is then when I was working in Frankfurt and trying to get those families to come, like they wouldn't like. Those families that were in, say, Bridesburg, wouldn't come across Frankfurt Avenue to Frankfurt. You know, those families that were in Wissinoming wouldn't come down across the boulevard to Frankfurt. Like it was, like it's just like, okay, everybody just everybody just got their own, you know, their own little thing. And even up the way when I was in West Oak Lane, you know, going to Mount Airy to us was a big deal. Like, oh man, we're going to Mount Airy today. You know what I'm saying? Like that was a big thing. Like even though Mount Airy was, you could walk across the street and be in Mount Airy. It's just crazy. So, you know, that's what makes Philly unique. That neighborhood thing really makes us unique.
Yeah, that's amazing.
That's awesome. Well, Tanya, we're very honored to have you on our talk show. Like, you know, it's always amazing to hear from like someone who actually grew up and raised in Philly and is able to like, you know, witness all these changes that's going on. Are you a little bit worried about the future of Philly? You're worried because you seem to love city. It has a different character to it. My question to you, like, are you afraid like Philly might become like New York or DC, or you think it's going to stay the same?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I you know, we talk about that a lot, and it's interesting because, like I said, the whole people on top of people thing, and when you look at the fact that we've had a lot of transplants, right? Because you can live in Philly and the cost of living is so different from New York. Jump on the Amtrak and still go to work. And so a lot of folks are really doing that. And so, you know, I think it's about 2025, they believe that they're going to have a train that's going to be an hour from Philly to New York, right? So when you measure that, you know, I was on a call last night with some folks for this Reimagining the City of Philadelphia committee that I'm on. And we were talking, one of the ladies on there, Ms. Paula, was talking about that very thing, that she was concerned that we would be becoming like a New York, you know, and when we look around and see what's happening, I have we all should be concerned, you know, as we look at the gentrification, as we look at the way that we're developing, as we look at, and me being a part of the entrepreneurial ecosystem, as we look at the types of businesses that we're attracted that are becoming here with tech, you know, those kinds of things. You know, some people see us as becoming maybe like the Silicon Valley of the East Side. So, you know, it's going to be interesting as we continue to grow. I'm more concerned about us getting this crime under control that could hinder whatever we become as we move forward as far as our progression.
No, definitely. I think you just mentioned reimagining, Philadelphia. So I imagine, no pun intended, that to be a part of what the city looks like, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, also helps with being able to be a part of shaping the narrative of the city.
Yes,
too.
very much so.
So getting into, let's say, your educational background, you mentioned you went to Temple.
Yes, sir. TU.
And CCP?
Yep, CCP too.
What did you study?
Journalism, actually.
Okay.
According to my degree, I'm a writer. According to my degree, that's what my degree says. That's what my student loan debt says. I'm a writer, so I was I majored in journalism. I wanted to be the female Spike Lee when I came out of college.
Right.
That's what I wanted to be.
How do you develop that mindset?
Yeah, I wanted to be the female Spike Lee. I saw She's Gotta Have It, and I said,
wow,
that's what I wanted to do.
Wow, that's awesome.
And I was like, wow. And so when Spike, and then I became a reporter. So when Spike would come to town, I still remember one time I interviewed him. WDAS used to be on Belmont and Edgeley Road back in the day. And I got off the bus. I was late getting there. He was already getting in the limousine. So I'm listening to it on the radio, and he was already getting in the limousine. And I'm like running down the street. I'm like, I'm not going to let Spike leave. And so I had an opportunity to talk to him. But that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be the female. I wanted to be the female Spike Lee. Yep, I wanted to make films.
Did you go into film making?
I dabbled, mostly though writing. Like I wrote a couple scripts.
Okay.
I did an independent film. I wrote a couple scripts. But I ended up being a newspaper reporter. I often say the two things that I never wanted to do as a writer, or the two things I ended up doing, was being a reporter and writing books. Because I've written 3 books, and I was a reporter as well. Those are 2 things that I said in college I was never going to do. I'm never going to be a reporter. I'm never going to write books. And those are 2 things I did the most.
How did you land in those spaces? Where it's not an easy feat to write in one book.
Right. Well, the reporter thing happened because Jerry Mondesire, the late president of the NAACP, was the friend of a friend. He had just started the Philadelphia Sunday Sun and needed reporters. And I still remember him calling me and telling me to go cover the story, not interviewing me, just telling me to go write the story. I said, Jerry, I've never, you'll be fine, just go ahead. And I was like, and that was really how I became a reporter. And so, I wrote for the Sun. I've interviewed Spike, Kenan Ivory Wayans, Oprah, Will, Chuck D. Chuck used to come to town. Him and I used to hang out. I used to take him to this Muslim spot to get him some fish all the time. So, I used to, so that was how I got into the reporter thing, and thinking I'm still going to be the female Spike Lee. Like that was going to be my end. That was going to be my end. So that was how that started. And then during that time, I started working for a nonprofit organization. I was working in actually a halfway house. I volunteered at a halfway house. Girlfriend of mine got married and decided to go home and be a teacher. They asked me to stay on. I took her position as a life skills coordinator, and that was really kind of how I started developing those stories. And I'll never forget, I used to show them Les Brown. I was really into Les Brown back in the day, a motivational speaker, and I used to show them Les Brown videos. He used to come on Channel 12 back in the day, and one of the young men came in one time. He said, Miss Mars, you could be like Les Brown or one of them for real, though. I was like, you think so, Brown? Yeah, you bad like that. And he was really the impetus for my first book, Divine Inspiration, The Process of Fulfilling Your Divine Destiny. Wow. And that was my first book. It was really inspired by Vernon.
So it was like motivational.
Yeah, motivational.
Self-help type of book.
That kind of thing, yep.
Why did you pick that area of topic?
I think it was probably mostly because it was connected to my faith. The motivational thing, inspirational. I think that was really gave me an opportunity to share my story honestly and authentically. Like I would really interview. I had an opportunity. I would talk about Leon Sullivan. I interviewed our former mayor, W. Wilson Goode, who was the first African American mayor in the city of Philadelphia. I interviewed him for the book, and I think it was really the motivational stuff kind of came easy because it was so connected to my faith. Yeah.
Wow. The other books that you wrote, were they also motivation?
Yep. Yep. Drop Your Baggage, the Just
Okay.
Get Over It makeover. I was really into Extreme Makeover Home Edition back in the day. And so I kind of took that concept of doing a makeover of your house,
Yeah.
how you could make over your life, like if you was in a certain kind of area. And so, you can get a dream team, and it all starts with the assessment, where am I in my life, you know what I mean? And then, the tools. So that was really kind of that. And then the last one was on mentorship, which is part of what we do at Mom Your Business. So that one came kind of natural.
And it sounds like we're sort of slowly making our way into talking about the business that you run today. You're talking about Spike Lee, you're talking about faith. These are like your motivating things. Were they actually like a real actual person in your life who served as a role model for you or inspire you
I would probably say I've been really fortunate because I've had a lot of mentors and role models. And I often tell people, especially young people, when you identify somebody in your life that has an impact on you, mark them. Remember them, mark them. And so, for me, that would probably, I've had a lot of great teachers. I never forget, I saw a high school teacher of mine after I had my sons, and he said, leave it up to you. You couldn't even have a baby right. You had to have two of them. Because I had twins. So, I remember Mr. Moore always challenging me, in school. And then, there was my grandmother. Of course, my grandmother, again, was a pastor. She really shaped my faith and my trust in God. And then, when I got older, probably my pastor became really like a mentor to me, Bishop Darrell Robinson, who was really a key part of my life. And then when I was in the nonprofit world, Gene Hunt, who really showed me what it meant to be a servant and working families and the plight of poor people. And this was a white woman. She was really critical. She was the first person that ever told me that you're supposed to leave a tip in a room after you stay in a hotel. Like, I never knew that was something that you were supposed to do. I was like, you leave a room tip for those that clean. And I was like, Jean was the one that really changed the way I thought, about working people, people working average, every day, we would consider, ordinary jobs, regular jobs. So, a lot of people throughout.
It's incredible.
Where did you go to high school?
I went to Northeast High School.
Northeast, okay. Okay.
Yep, to Northeast High School.
Cool. So now, you mentioned working at this halfway house as a coordinator. What kind of impact did that experience have on you? Because it sounded like that was even played a part in getting inspired to write your book.
Yeah. I mean, at first you think it's going to be scary, right? Like, but they were never those kind of people. You know what I mean? They were never, or at least I never saw them as threatening. It was majority men. Had a couple women. Probably the first two women I ever mentored were in the halfway house. And so I think it was, again, I think, you think it's going to be scary, but it really wasn't scary. And just developing those, watching and helping those folks make that transition, man. Just trying to help them to navigate life and get back, to their families and getting back, I never forget one guy told me, and he told some other guys, he said, man, we was just talking, he said, man, y'all talk about the fact that, you ain't hurt nobody but yourself. He said, but guess what? Ask that wife on the other end of that phone when you calling from the prison to put something on your book. Ask that mother on the other end of the phone if you impacting somebody else besides you, So I learned so much when I worked in the halfway house, just really about relationships and how people think, men in particular, and how they navigate, black men, how they navigate certain spaces, and the challenges, that they face. So, it was again, like you said, it was really the start for me. I've always wrote like little shorts, fiction and that kind of stuff, but that experience changed how the type of writer that I was. For sure.
Can you expand on that, elaborate on that a little bit? How, in what way does it change you?
I think it changed the way I was as a writer because I saw real people. You know what I mean? I saw real people living real lives. I'm like, you can't be writing fiction, made up stuff. You got got folks out here that's really in the struggle. You know what I'm saying? That's really out here trying to make it, trying to survive. So from that perspective, it was like, you know, I got to get off of this fiction stuff and start writing about stuff that's real, you know?
Amazing.
Wow. So now, Mom Your Business.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that title. It's very catchy.
Yeah, everybody loves it. I was in Boscov's, the department store today, out of Plymouth meeting. We're going to do an in-store with them where people can come and shop.
Yeah.
And so when the lady asked me, so you have to pick up the coupons that you give out to people, you know, that they can buy the shop for 25% off. And the lady, when I said, Mom, she said, Mom, your business. She was like, she was so excited. And then come to find out, she used to own a boutique that was in Suburban Square. And her and I had a great conversation. And she, you know, we talked, said, I need people like you, Miss Thelma, to be volunteers and come talk to these ladies about, you know, running the business. So in a lot of ways, I feel like Mom Your Business really kind of brings me full circle. You know what I mean? To back when I, you know, to everything that I was doing, because, you know, the mentoring thing, when we started in 2017, I didn't know what we were going to be. I didn't know what we were going to be. I didn't know what we were going to do. But I knew mentoring would be a part of it. Because mentoring is not what I do, it's who I am in every way, in every sense of the word. And so I knew it was going to be mentoring. But other than that, I didn't know what we were going to do.
Wow. I think you bringing that up is a great point, because oftentimes when people start a business, that idea you start with isn't always necessarily exactly what the idea ends up being, but there's always some sort of why that you go back to.
It's a great point. It's a great point, okay? Great point.
What was the trajectory like from when you started to it becoming more defined as Mom Your Business?
So I think for me it was probably when I connected with Black Girl Ventures. Black Girl Ventures is a national nonprofit out of DC. And when Shelley first started, she was going around to different cities, you know, making these visits. And so in 2008, we started in 2017, 2018, she came to Philly, mutual friend introduced us. And I entered into their pitch competition again, not really knowing what we were going to be, but I decided what we were going to be was a co-working space for women.
Okay.
And that's what we pitched, and we came in second place.
Wow.
And so that to me was kind of the transformative moment for Mom Your Business, because we were just doing workshops. I had done a couple, like a workshop here. I was still working full time at Cheyney University at the time. And I was just, you know, doing a workshop here, doing a workshop there. And then we did the pitch competition, came in, and then later on we won co-working space. So that changed it again. So it was like, okay, are we going to create a co-working space? Well, we got free co-working space, you know. So don't need to do that. So what are we going to do? So, you know, we started doing workshops and office hours and stuff like that, and then the pandemic hit. You know, so that changed us again. So that's, you know, the evolution businesses go through. You know, different things happen that change. You know, how you function, how you operate, and how you do what it is you're trying to do.
I know that when you and I spoke at the, cause we met at the 76 forward space that day in Burrytown, and you were talking about how you actually went all in with Mom Your Business sort of recently. Well, was it during the pandemic?
Can
you talk a little bit about the pandemic, how the pandemic impacted you and the business, and what it was like responding to it?
I think that I'm probably one of the few people that can say they actually grew out of the pandemic, right? Because again, we had one co-working space, got shut down. We were at another location. And then when the George Floyd and Breonna Taylor stuff happened, you know, Jen, who's the founder of 1776, you know, was sending out emails about they needed to do better, you know, how could they do better? And I emailed, we had stayed in contact because I met her when I pitched, one of the judges, when I pitched for BGV, connected me to her. And so I had met her before and didn't have an ask, and we just stayed in contact. And then you know, when she said that to me, I said, Jen, I need some mentors and I need some space.
Yeah.
She said, come get your 5. And I was like, oh, I've been there ever since.
Okay.
Don't plan on going nowhere either. So,
Yeah.
you know, that was really kind of how that happened, you
Yeah.
know, so we're really, really, really fortunate. And then we were able to kind of go back to doing what we had just started doing pre-pandemic, which was one-on-ones with our founders,
Okay.
you know, doing our think tanks, you know, doing those kinds of things. And we were in a session at the BGV kickoff for the Philly chapter, and a young lady asked a question about being stuck. And it was in that moment that I thought about, you know, we need to do an accelerator program. It was something that she said about, you know, I can't grow. I don't know where to find money.
Yeah.
You know, that whole thing. And I called Shelly the next day and I told her, and she asked me this one simple question: where are you going to accelerate them to? And that was really the question that helped me shape Mom Your Business for the Founders to Funders Business Accelerator Program.
Wow.
Is where you're going to accelerate them to.
So now, with that question and answering that question, is the answer accelerating them from starting their business to getting funding for their business? Is that okay?
Yeah, I mean, it's a couple different things. I was telling somebody this earlier today while I was at the office, is that it really depends on where they are, right? We're only dealing with growth companies, so no idea stage, because you can go to SCORE or any of these other startups. You can learn how to start a business online.
Yeah.
So we're not that program if you're still like, well, you know, I'm doing this side hustle thing, but I don't know what it is. We're not for you. We're for people that are actively in business. So, and they just need that one thing to take them over the top to wherever they want to be.
Yeah.
So if you're a side hustle, if the goal is to go full time,
Yeah.
how we going to accelerate you to get there? If you're actively in business and you need to hire some employees so that you can go to that next level, how do we accelerate you? We want to accelerate you to get there.
Yeah.
So it's really how they define what that where that place is that they want to get, and we just want to make sure we have the tools to get them there.
Got you.
Well, Tanya, we might come to you tomorrow.
I always got a couple brothers that's hanging around. I always got a couple brothers.
Because you know, the reception lady might not let us in and be like, but hey, we know we jumping over you.
Yes.
But that's incredible. So like, you know, usually when you kick off a business like this and you talk about mentorship program and helping women, empowering women how to really like start off their own business. Talk to us about like, how did it start? Like, what were the sort of like, were people receptive, or do you have to actively seek people? You have to promote yourself, or people coming at you, and then, you know.
Yeah. Well, you know, I always did like a lot of events. Like I used to do a tea every year for Women's History Month. And then I was, even when I wrote my books, like when I had my books, I was always doing like a little, you know, books, beauties, and something for breast cancer awareness or something like that. So I was always doing a lot of different events. So I was always kind of like out there, you know what I mean, in the sense on the event thing. So, but events really are how we really grew. You know what I mean? Doing those little pop-up events. Doing pop-up shops so people could vend at, giving women those opportunities to vend, and things like that. We're planning something now for the weekend of November the 19th. We're planning on doing something that Sunday. I'm going down to Salisbury, Maryland with one of my board members to do something with her down there where we're going to do a little pop-up shop. And then we started doing these think tanks where you would come, and if you had a problem, we would bring in different experts and help you navigate that. And so many businesses have grown out of that. That was before the accelerator program. That was just, let's just come together and just figure this thing out that you're trying to navigate. And so that was really it. And then, you know, of course, like at social media, as I look through the applications that we've gotten for Founders to Funders, so many of them have been referrals. You know, so many of them have been, you know, somebody referred me to you or somebody told me about you. I've gotten a lot of referrals too. So marketing is key. But see, I'm old school marketing. Like I was telling this somebody this the other day, I think so many people just hang their hat on social media and think, they think this is field of dreams. If you build it, they will come. And marketing doesn't work like that. You got to get out here and grind. So I'm old school because I used to do community engagement when I was in nonprofit, where we were out knocking on doors when folks had street teams. You say street team now, folks be like, I told somebody that the other day, and she said to me, you know how to find a street team? Like, we'll get you a street team. Folks don't even believe in street teams no more. But it's all about just getting that message out across all, any way that you can, like any way that you can.
Yeah. And it's just also like, to me, based on what you have shared with us and your experience, it also sounds like you started your work in helping others. So, Mom, your business what's the business model right now? Is it nonprofit or is it for profit?
Yep. So we're nonprofit 501c3. We just got our 501c3 this year. Actually, so we just got our 501c3 this year.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And so Founders to Funders is fee for service. We have an enrollment fee, and that's mostly because I want the founders to invest in themselves. You know what I mean? Because I believe people's come to and support what they pay for. You know what I mean? So if it was free, they'd come to
value
so we have a little small enrollment fee for that. So we have fee for service, grants, donations. That's primarily the way. And then our long-term goal is to create a community investment fund that actually invests in them, because we want to provide as much non-diluted capital as possible, right? We don't want folks giving up their equity, that kind of thing. We want to provide as much non-diluted capital as possible.
Okay. We just have so many questions here, really trying to understand the incredible work that you're doing. So are you much more targeting like people of color, or just like open to anyone?
Yep. So our program is specifically for Black and brown females.
And can you like tell us why that is?
That is because I'm a black female. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, that's part of it.
We say, well, keep it real, right? That was a real answer.
But in addition to that, it's because Black women are the fastest growing group of entrepreneurs, yet the least funded. Right? Black women receive less than 1% of all venture capital. How can you be the fastest growing group of entrepreneurs and nobody want to give you money? I'm still waiting for a VC to explain it to me, because it don't make sense. You're the fastest growing. Studies show that when Black women are successful, the economy is better. These are not numbers that we're making up. These are facts. Forbes just did a report. Matter of fact, just last week, when Black women are successful, the economy is better. The country is better, because there are 40% of Black women are heads of household, which means they're the primary breadwinner. So if they have a side job, and most of us start our businesses out of a need, right? So whether that's a child that we're trying to pay for daycare, whether that's a child that we're trying to help prepare for college. I got one of my moms, she started the Pound Cake Project to pay for her daughter's private school education, right? That's how most of us start, to pay off debt, to buy a new refrigerator out of a need. And then what happens is we see that that's working and we go, I think this is a business. But don't know how to make it into a business. And so those are the women that we specifically trying to target. Okay, now you got that going on, then let's make some real money and let's really take this thing to the next level. So, so that's really why, is because Black women are the fastest growing group of entrepreneurs, yet the least funded, and we want to create pathways for them to access capital so that they can be successful, because Black women are bankable. You can bank on us. We're a good bet. We're a good bet.
We'd like to thank everyone who's tuned in with us so far. We hope you like what you see. We're here with Miss Tanya of Mom Your Business. Please make sure to subscribe to our channel, and also hit the like button right below and hit the notification bell at the top right. We're going to continue this conversation. So now, is it okay if I call you Miss Tanya?
Yeah, it is. You call me Tanya, Miss Tanya. It don't matter. I know I'm old enough to be your mom, most probably, but it's cool.
So Miss Tanya.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned the challenge with having access to capital.
Yes.
that black women specifically, I have all black people in general, but especially
Yes.
black women. I mean, less than 1%
Less than
is
1%.
very, very low amount. But at the same time, knowing that black women are the fastest growing entrepreneurs in the country, it doesn't make sense. Apart from the capital, are there, because I imagine that the capital issue is one reason a lot of women entrepreneurs come to, are there other pain points or needs that you typically see?
Yes, that's a great question. One other thing is the technical support, right? Automation, those kinds of things, because so many of us are service-based businesses, and so a lot of times we don't know how to make that transition into automation, whether that, should I get an app? Do I need to do this online? That automation piece is key for us too. And so that's that technical support. We're good at marketing, right? All you got to do is look at who some of your leading influencers on social media to know that we're good at marketing. Marketing is not really a challenge for most of us. It's the automation. And my thing is with Founders to Funders, which is why I held off on doing another cohort, is because I didn't want to do another cohort and have education, have mentoring, and not have capital. Because there's so many programs out here. I told somebody the other day, and even for me, because I apply to a lot of stuff too. Yeah. I said, if I see another program that says mentor, you gonna get 2 mentors, and you gonna get, and don't have no money, I'm gonna throw up. Because I just can't. We need the mentoring, the education, and the capital. You gotta have all 3 in order to be successful and grow. You got to have all 3.
Yeah, oh, for sure. And then now with where you are, because I mean we're still in the pandemic.
Yep.
We know that the people are starting to go back outside. We know that the pandemic is still here and still affecting things. And you mentioned how the pandemic shifted the approach to the business. You kind of went back to the root of things, the one-on-ones, and then you landed on the accelerator program. So has that started now, the accelerator?
Yep.
And
so we did
that?
one cohort. We did our first cohort was in March. It ended in May. Graduated 12 women from that first cohort, and then the second one will be starting November the 6th.
Okay. What kind of companies were a part of that, and how was that?
So the first group was really diverse. Like we had 2 caterers. I had a young lady who has a man's cave. It's called a man's cave. It's a mobile spot for men. I have a lady who created a headscarf that doesn't come off. She just got her patent as well. I have a young lady that does a CBD infused tea. I had another young lady has another spa. So we had a diverse group of businesses. What I think is going to be that I'm really looking forward to in this next cohort is it's kind of shaping up to be like this beauty travel kind of cohort. I don't know why, but it's kind of like I have a young lady that does what she calls hood tours. Yeah. I got a girl out of Miami that has the African Travel Summit. Yeah. So we're shaping up. I got 2 young ladies out of Temple, TU, who do a subscription box of all natural products. So it's kind of shaping up to be a more industry specific cohort, which I'm liking. I'm really excited. I like because I think it's going to be a good mix of them coming together. I'm seeing some really opportunities for them to help one another, and really flow together. So I'm excited about the new cohort a lot. Yeah.
Right. And so what's the process like? So people get on the website and then they apply, and then they have to say the why, and then you guys will like determine who will be a good fit or.
Yep. So they go to founderstofunders.org, fill out the application, and then there's an interview. It's an interview process. So we do an interview process. So because I want to engage with them. Because even if they can't come into the whole cohort, I want to find some other ways. To help them. We had a young lady that came in the first cohort. She was one of the top 50 content creators in all of India. Wow. It's based in DC. agreed that she was a little further down the line than most of our folks. She's up probably looking for about a $1 million raise. Created a dating app called Sparkle. Stayed on because she wanted to stay connected to us, and so she's like my entrepreneur in residence. So she goes and she works with a lot of our founders. You know, so those are the kinds of relationships, like some people like Pri, that we want to be able to keep on. I had a lady just recently, older Asian lady, who's created this CPAC machine. Again, probably a little further down the line than most of our folks. So she was like, I think I want you to stay on as an advisor. Let me go back and talk to the team and see, you know, so, you know, that's why I do the interview part of it, to kind of get a really good assessment of where folks at. Sometimes I can just look at the application and say, not a good fit, because they're in the idea stage. They can't tell me what their numbers are, you know, how much money they raised over the past couple, you know, past 90 days. They don't know their numbers. They don't have a website. Things, you know what I mean? Things like that that are like, you know, I can't, you know, because, you know, we really want folks to be operating on a certain kind of level.
Now, you said that ultimately you want, or you're looking for Mom Your Business to become a community investment fund?
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about why that specific model, and is that something that you've already started working towards?
Yeah, you know, it's interesting because people talk about venture funds a lot. There's a lot of, and here's the good part of that. Well, here's the thing. There's been an increase in Black-led venture funds over the last year and a half, right? But yet that number of capital that we get hasn't moved much. That speaks volumes, right? And then a study came out last week that talked about the fact that when you look at funds that have women check writers, right? When women are writing checks, those businesses are growing and those businesses are successful. So we want to become a part of that fund. Like we want to be like an Arlen Hamilton, who's a you know, who's a VC, and you know, Monique Greenwood, and some of these other women out there. We want to be able to write checks to get behind these folks, right? We just want to do it a little differently because again, we want it to be as non-diluted, where they're not losing, you know, their ownership in their business. We want folks to be able to maintain their ownership. So we're really looking to do our fund a little differently with a lot of one-offs, you know, where people can just invest and they can just move on. So that's one of the things that we're doing. And yes, to your question, we've already started, you know, engaging some partners around raising. So, you know, we're not at liberty to talk about in detail, but next year sometimes you're going to start seeing us making some big investments.
That's great.
So, you know, my next question is just like, so this idea of Mom Your Business, can you tell us a few, what exactly you mean by that?
I get that all the time because folks want, you know, I had a girl apply. She said, well, I'm not a mom. I said, that's fine. It's about taking care of your business, right? And so we like to say, if you are pregnant with a business, we want to help you push, right? If you are in those terrible twos where that baby ain't quite standing up yet because your baby, you know, your business is your baby, we want to help them to be able to stand. If they're in that pre-teenage years where they going acting crazy, we want to help you discipline it, help it to mature. So that's what Mom Your Business is about. It's really about momming your business, taking care of your business and helping it to mature and to grow up and be successful. Yeah,
that's awesome.
You like that?
I love it because it's like, it's about this nurturing aspect.
Yes, there you go.
But it's also about guidance and stuff like that. It also reminds me of the commercial Allstate. We got you like Allstate. So, like, you know. But I do want to also ask this question. There's so many organizations out there trying to empower minorities through the business ventures. What makes Mom Your Business different?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that, like I said, you know, we focus on growth stage, right? And a lot of the entrepreneurial growth organizations, I know all of them in the city of Philadelphia, have worked with most of them on some kind of level, whether that's the Enterprise Center or Entrepreneur Works and all these other different ones out there. So I think one thing, again, because black women are the fastest growing group of entrepreneurs,
Yeah.
we all have black women, whether it's SCORE, whether it's CCP's Power Up program, because this is where we are right now as far as, who is the in demand. I think one thing that kind of separates us from those is really our approach. Right, it is our curriculum is proprietary. It was created by a black woman, and it includes those things that some other curriculums don't. We look at self-care, right? How you're taking care of yourself. We look at how you're managing your finances of your home and your business, right? And keeping those things separated. We look at how you're blending together all of this. If you're still working, if you still got that side hustle, how are you blending all of those things together? So I think we take a more holistic approach to addressing and dealing with the black woman in a unique way from that perspective.
That's incredible. The counterpart, based on your experience, you're talking about black women or women being like this fastest sort of like population in business. Do you see a difference between like the way women run business versus the way men run business, or is the gap is this misconception? Like is it gender, but is it different the way men and women run business?
I think that's a great question, and I think there are some obviously differences just in the way that we just operate as men and women, because we're different, right? Because we're obviously different, and that's why when you hear somebody say a business is their baby, it's usually a woman, right? Brothers don't really talk like that. You know what I mean? This is my gig. This is my thing. You know what I mean? So it's all on that approach, right? And so I think there are some fundamental differences, but there are some outstanding brothers out here that supporting, black women. I have a mentor. Gary Johnson is one of my mentors. He's I tease him because I tell him I'm old enough to be your mama, so don't get smart with me. But he's really giving me some incredible advice. And so I think it's all about the approach. People like to say men think with their head, women think with their heart, that kind of stuff. So it's all about the approach. So I think it's very, very different. And I think men just grind different. You know what I mean? I think men just grind different. Like they just, when they in it, you know what I mean? They grinding. We'll be like, I'm tired. Well, sister be like, and I talked to so many women this week that was ready to cry and throw in the towel, and the day Tuesday. Okay, and I talked to so many sisters, I be like, so Tanya, I ain't got time. Like seriously, I'm good. So I think a lot of that is true, just the way that we're made. Yeah.
Good. Cool. And so now we're starting to come across a turn.
Coming across a turn?
I like to use track terms sometimes. I used to run track back in school.
Okay.
A question we like to ask our guests is, if you went back in time and you had a conversation with your younger self. Let's take 18-year-old Tanya.
Sitting right in front of you right now.
You see my eyes get big, like
knowing everything that you know now.
Oh, man.
What would your advice be to her, just as far as moving forward in life, navigating the ups and downs? What would you tell her?
One thing I would tell her is start a business sooner. Invest wiser. Save and save. Buy a house younger. I bought my house when I was 30.
Yeah.
Those would probably be the main things. And I know I said I would never live anywhere else, but I probably would have went away to school, even much as I love Temple, just to have that experience. Yeah. I think those would be the main thing. And I thought about it. I mean, I got accepted to Bethune-Cookman.
Okay.
So I played ball in college, so I went to go. Yeah, I went there. I played. I thought I was Magic most of the time, so I was all over the court.
Okay.
But I got accepted Bethune-Cookman. Then I got accepted to Howard's Divinity School too, and didn't go. So I probably would say go away to college, you know, just to get the experience. Yep, that would be it. But definitely buy a house.
Yeah.
I think like that's like an advice that I think needs to resonate with a lot of young folks. And where do you, why should we take that advice seriously? Because when you're young, there's this narrative like live your best life. You're young, like you're gonna be okay. But why do we need to like buy a house younger?
Because home ownership is the pathway to wealth. It's really just that simple. The primary way to build wealth, generational wealth, is through home ownership.
Yeah.
There's been so many barriers when you look at redlining and all that kind of stuff. But that is it. Every day, I'm getting a phone call or a note in the door about selling my home to some gentrifier, right? Because they know what they think we don't know is that home ownership is the pathway to building generational wealth.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah.
That's it.
On that same topic, I know that before the interview we were just briefly talking about the Jumpstart program, and the Jumpstart program it gives the resources and education in order to purchase homes or properties, renovate them, and usually rent them out. But it takes a community approach where it's empowering people from that local community to invest back into that community and be a part of the development. Can you talk a little bit about your plans with Jumpstart and kind of like where you want to take that?
So you know how I got interested in Jumpstart is because I wanted to buy a building for the co-working space. That's why I went to Jumpstart. Was because I was like, I saw this community approach and I was like, oh man, this might be a way for me to get a building, a property that I really want for the co-working space. That was really how I got into it. And so since then, I mean, the program is just excellent. I got another girlfriend of mine that's went through it. I know other people. Somebody asked me about it just the other day, and I'm like, man, do it. I'm like, do it, because it's really about us, building up our community and taking back our community. There's these two young ladies out of Philly that have something called Rebuild the Block or Take Back the Block. There's these brothers out west that came together and bought a bunch of properties. Those are the kinds of things that we have really, really got to start doing if we're going to ever, have generational wealth at the end of the day. And so now, while I didn't, now we have a space and I didn't purchase the program, I am doing some real estate investment with some other partners, and I'm using those things that I learned, from Jumpstart, as far as how to identify, a property and how to, get a good contract and what to look for and the budgeting and all of that kind of stuff. I still got the tools that Robin gave me, the spreadsheets and all of that. That stuff is all, all stuff that you use. I tell people all the time, you can get in Jumpstart, get in. I was jumping around from one to one trying to get in when they were all full. That's how I ended up there both ways. I was like, man, okay, well, I finally got in this one. I was like, yes, because I was trying to get in them. It's great. It's a great resource. Yeah,
and I love programs like that because, again, the approach that they take to it, where it's more of a rather than kind of just shifting the whole community overnight, it's something that is done more over time, and you could the local community could also be a part of that, and it kind of shifts the understanding of gentrification and what that looks like. So Tanya, we want to thank you for coming.
My pleasure.
Again. This has been a really great interview. Is there anything you want to leave people with?
Well, I'll give you all my handles. You can definitely find me out in the Internet of Things. Out at momyourbusiness.com. foundersthefunders.org. As founders, the number 2 funders.org. I'm Mom Your Business on all social media platforms. But definitely thank you all for having me. I hope I was able to share something to really empower and encourage your audience to just, to go out there and do your thing, make your dreams come true. Find a circle of people to support you. The support is so important if you're going to accomplish your goals and go to that next level. So, do you.
That's incredible. No, Tanya, again, thank you for coming on our show. The purpose of our show is to continue to tap into Black voices, Black stories, to let someone who look like you out there, especially our viewers, to know if you have that little dream in your head and you're thinking about what my next step is, please continue to tune into our show, and then you might meet somebody like Miss Tanya who might change your whole life. All right. So again, never doubt yourself, but also know there's someone out there willing to help.
That's right. That's right.
And Ms. Tanya, you are that person.
That's right.
And thank you for being that person for so many women.
Yeah. Am I the first female? What? I have to give y'all some more sisters to bring up in this piece.
We love you. You definitely got to bring more sisters.
We've had a couple of sisters on, but we definitely want more on the show.
But definitely, thank you for literally changing the narrative.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. My pleasure. Pepper talk. I love it. Pepper soup. Yes, I love it. Pepper soup talk. I love it.
So this pepper soup.
So what's that type of? What's that? Where'd that come from?
Pepper soup.
Okay.
So pepper soup is a type of West African dish, and it's very spicy food. Usually put crawfish inside. There's an actual pepper soup powder that goes inside too, and it's very very hot.
Okay.
Hot dish. So when you come on Pepper Soup Talk, you come into the hot seat.
Oh, I got it now. Okay. I like that. Okay.
It kind of make your mouth watery too.
Yes.
At the end of the day,
got it. I like it. That's nice.
Our whole ingredient is knowledge and your experience.
Nice.
All right. And so that's what we about.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, so this is Pepper Soup Talk, and we'll be back at you next time.
All right. Okay. Thank you, folks.